Hi, and welcome to Six Figure Signature Offers, the place female founders come to create businesses that deliver both peace and profit. I'm your host, Robin Birkin, online business strategist. I built my first six-figure business with a baby and a toddler working just 6 hours per week. And I grew it to multi-six figures, more than 1 million podcast downloads and 1,500 clients before returning to my true expertise and growing this business to multi-six figures in less than 15 months, all in part-time hours. The one secret weapon that's fueled both businesses? A hero signature offer. The kind of offer that turns you from just another face in your niche to the authority, makes content creation 10 times easier, and powers rinse and repeat launches with big pockets of freedom in between. My mission is simple: to help you create a scalable business model that lets you work less, earn more, and build the kind of business that actually feels good to run. So if you've ever wondered how to create easeful yet wildly successful launches, how to get off the revenue roller coaster, or how to juggle being a present parent and the breadwinning CEO, sit back, subscribe. I am so happy to have you here. Let's go. Hi, and welcome back to Six Figure Signature Offers. Today, I am so thrilled to welcome one of my clients, Emma Gentle, to the podcast. It has been a while between podcast interviews, and I am so thrilled to jump back into it with one of my clients. So Emma joined the mastermind a few months ago, and since that time, I feel like has gone through some really big, not only life, but business changes. And it's my pleasure to welcome Emma here today to the podcast to speak to everyone about your business, how it rolls, who you help, and all of those incredibly juicy bits.
Thank you so much, Robin. I feel like you have summed my last 6 months up in a nutshell. It has been pretty hectic welcoming another child into the family. So business has changed quite a bit. So I'm excited to share all the juicy details.
Love it. And I always love just getting the real behind the scenes look at other people's businesses. I'm such a voyeur when it comes to that. And I know that so many people will be interested to hear your business. You are a coach, you specialize in like nervous system work, emotional intelligence, and all of those things I find are ridiculously important for women in business. So I'm really excited to see what you have to say, your insights into that as well. So first of all, like, what do you do? Who do you teach? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your expertise.
Sure. I feel like I've done so much in the last 3 years. I've only been in business for 3 years, but I was a primary school teacher and ended my career as an assistant principal and then had my daughter. And I decided I didn't want to go back into the classroom because my values had changed. All these things had changed for me personally. And I didn't like the current education system, I suppose. So I started working with someone around my own emotional intelligence and how that was impacting, you know, how I parented, how I taught, and all these sort of light bulbs went off, I suppose, in terms of why I wasn't really resonating with the classroom anymore and the old approach I used to teach, I suppose. So yeah, I decided to start helping other teachers integrate a trauma-informed approach into the classroom. And I soon realized that EQ was the missing skill set, I suppose, that teachers didn't have, and especially leaders, because it all stems from the top, as we know. And yeah, so I started my business mentoring graduate teachers and pre-service teachers and helping them. And then as I went along, I was faced with, I suppose, heaps of barriers around, I want to adopt this approach, this trauma-informed approach, and build my emotional intelligence and do all the things that we talk about. But I get faced with leaders who don't understand, who are dysregulated, and they're not receptive, and I'm not feeling supported. And so then I felt a lot of the work that we were doing wasn't really making a huge impact. And one of the things I wanted in my business was to make huge impact. And it's a reason why I didn't want to stay in the classroom. I wanted to have a big impact on a larger scale. And so, yeah, over, I guess, the last 3 years, I've gone from consulting with schools around behavior and helping leaders build their own emotional intelligence and regulate their nervous systems. And before so I've just welcomed another child into the family. So my son is 6 months old now. And so previous to that, I was doing a lot of consulting and coaching and hands-on work. And I'm a Manny Gen, so if you know human design, we like to do all the things all at
Yes.
once. And so I have had a lot of different programs and workshops and different iterations of memberships and all the things.
Yeah.
And that has just continued to evolve as I've, gained more skills and gone deeper into business. So, yeah, I've served lots of people in lots of different capacities, and
Yep.
things have changed a lot since I've had another child. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So did you already had your first child when you launched your business?
Yeah, so when I started my
Yep.
membership, that was my only offer, and my daughter was, I think, about 18 months old.
Mhm. And would you say, so when you had your daughter, when she was pretty young, it was a lot of consulting, going into places, doing a lot of workshops and in-person stuff?
Yeah, probably more as she got a little bit older. So she's now 4. So I would say more when she was, 3, 2 and 3. I was doing a lot more of that. But in the beginning, I just had the online membership and I was just running workshops and predominantly online. I never actually set out to be a consultant or do any of the workshops in person and things like that, because public speaking was my worst fear. Like, I would have rather died than do public speaking. And I have always been someone, though, who sort of faces fears and runs towards them instead of away. And I love talking, though, and I love connecting. And so I thought, I'm going to start my own podcast. And so through that and through being in the membership and doing a lot of the online coaching and things, when schools reached out to me because they'd been listening to my podcast and said, can you come and run in-person events for us and workshops, and do you want to consult with us? I was like, fuck no. That is really scary. No, I'm not doing that. But then my coach at the time was like, why don't you just say yes and have a go and do it anyway and
Mm.
feel the fear anyway? And so, yeah, I did. And that's why I now do all the things. And I'm so glad I did do that.
Yeah. What would you say as somebody who, and we'll speak about what it's been like, I guess, with your second baby on the way and then making it into the world. We'll speak about that in a moment. But so many women have the desire to step out of the corporate workplace and launch businesses. So many women are like, I want to launch whatever it is, like a membership, an online course, coaching, consulting, podcasts, whatever it is. And it's a lot. The time is a lot. What would you say? Why are you someone who gets it done and out into the world?
I genuinely believe that if you're starting a business, it has to be around something you're super passionate about, because business is so hard. Working for someone else is far easier in that the mental load isn't there. Like, you really never switch off from business as much as you want to. It is always there. And, that can be in a great light or in a negative light. It depends on your mindset. But I think that to be able to continue to jump all the hurdles and face the challenges and love doing it, you need to do something you're really passionate about. When I first actually got into business, I was introduced to the ikigai concept. Have you heard of that?
It's a Japanese concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that because it sort of goes through, what you're good at, what skill set you have, what you love, what the world needs, what people would pay you for. And it sort of helps you really identify your sweet spot, I suppose. And yeah, I think that's probably the most important thing.
Do you, what do you do? Do you watch a lot of YouTube videos? Do you stay up until 2 a.m. in the morning? What what makes you different to someone who's like, I am passionate about this, but I want to get it done, but I'm in the thick of stuff?
Being in the education system
Mm.
and makes you think like that there's only one way to do things, and that, you're just being told to do things by other people. You don't I didn't even realize this was a thing, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
when I started my business, I was open to the world of entrepreneurship, I suppose. And then I was like, whoa, this is really cool. I can do literally whatever I want and help people, and people will pay me for it. And I get so much joy out of being able to do this and help people. That's what drives me. That, and you've just got to do all the things. You can't go into business thinking that I want to make this amount and I want to help these type of people and then just go and do nothing. Like you have to take the action, even when it's hard, even when you don't want to, even when you are 38 weeks pregnant and swollen and you can't be bothered. You still have to show up
Yeah.
and do the hard things. But yeah, I think it looks glamorous sometimes too online because we're just seeing the shiny parts, but there is, yeah, a lot that goes in behind the scenes. But to me, it's worth it because I love what I do.
Have you had any mindset? So my understanding is you have readily engaged in coaching and consulting when you've needed it. You have an OBM and a VA. You signed up to work in the mastermind when you were heavily pregnant because you're like, this is business, this is how it goes. You invest in Facebook ads to run your business. So is there a mindset piece there? And is that possibly related to, I guess, what it is that your expertise is as well?
My partner has always said, and I've been with him for 15 years, so, the people you spend the most amount of time with, you often adopt those beliefs, which can be great and bad. But for me, he has cemented this in. You have to spend money to make money. And so he has always had that mindset. And so I went into the business with that mindset. I had a little bit of cash up my sleeve. And so straight away, I did invest straight into business coaching and mentorship because I believe the quickest way to get to where you want to go is to learn from others and how they got there. And because we I've done so many different courses and coaching and consulting, and all of it has been beneficial.
Mm.
And I think we can do it the long way, which is going on YouTube and learning all the things. And that is great if that's where you're at. But for me personally, I think investing in the right containers helps you really identify what you need. And because at each stage of my business, it's been different too, with where we've been at with how many hours I can work a week, whether I do have care for my kids or not, what I want it to look like. Like there have been periods in my business where I've worked 3 full days and I look back and think, oh, I used to cram so much in. I was doing too much. I wish I had have just focused on one thing. That's the money gen energy. And that's the also learnings of being new in business. I don't think we go into it and just get it right straight away. But the benefit of all of that is I've done so much now in my third year. I'm getting really clear on, what lights me up, what I'm really good at, where I actually want to put my energy. And so I think investing in people who are going to help you identify all those things along the way is really important.
So, what led you to specifically join Peace and Profit?
I loved the fact that you had a successful business in 16 hours a week. And because so many of us mums, that's all we have, and we have to make the hours count. And yeah, I love that you also just focused on one thing. Like I said, I've juggled so many different containers at once, and then I started doing a terrible job at some, and so then I'd feel guilty, and you just get in this loop of what am I even doing? I'm trying to help people and impact people, but I'm stretching myself thin because I've said yes too much. So for me, it was knowing that you're a mum, you know how to juggle family life and business life, and focusing on one signature program just sounded so delicious to me after doing all the things.
Yeah.
And also acknowledging that obviously I had another child coming along. I'm also launching an app with my partner, so we have another company as well, and my partner also works full time as a manager, so we have lots on our plate.
Mm.
Mm.
And so, looking at business, looking at the evolution of business, have there been any moments, over the last few months where you've been like, oh, aha, or oh my gosh, this like is something that works, or this is, you know, something that I'm going to take in now to whatever it is, like the next couple of months, the next chapters, whatever it is?
Mm. Because I have done so many things at once and sort of tried lots of things, thrown spear at the wall, so to speak, I have always had a bit of a rough plan and structure.
Mm.
But I love the way that you plan like in 90 days and also you sort of forecast ahead, say 12 months ahead to really look at, what offers do you have, how, and then break that down into what do you actually need to do in terms of lead gen and marketing and sales and mindset and all the different areas to pull it all together. I love the way that you map out every day, every week, every month, and what that sort of looks like on a recurring basis, because that's probably something that I've lacked in my business. And I think sometimes too, we think, oh, that's boring. And we try and make business like always really fun. It's so easy to just be led by the dopamine hits and be like, that's really fun. That sounds so exciting. But when it comes down to it, the mundane parts of the planning, the systems, the organization, we so need that, especially as mums being time poor.
Mm.
We really need that. And if you are listening to this and you're a beginning business owner, find a VA, like just outsource straight away. I think women wait too long because they think it's going to cost too much money, but it just frees you up so much. So, yes, I digress. I go off on lots of tangents because it's so all connected. Like motherhood, business, the way we run our lives, it's all connected. You can't really work on one area without it affecting another area. So, yeah.
I so agree. And I think this is the other thing that I think about a lot lately as well, is every we're everyone's breaking everything up into little pieces. Like there's this little piece of audience growth here, then there's this little piece of whatever it is, like ads here, and I'm like, no. And you know, there's the offer, and then it all works as one. You can't, there's certain times when you're going to look at little bits of your business in a silo, but by and large, if you're never doing the big work at a holistic level and having that big picture view, I find it quite hard to progress in business.
Yeah, it's like an ecosystem, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
too, the reason that's happening is because everyone is telling everyone that they need just one niche and you can't talk about anything else or do anything else, like on social media,
Yeah.
particularly. And so it's like, well, you just need to focus on this. And it's like, well, no, it's a whole ecosystem. You have to focus on all of it. I think too, something that the planning templates and discussions that we have in the mastermind too are great because you are looking at how are you nurturing your audience, in between leads, and how you're always saying that, you're always going back to your audience. Like it's not like a one and done. Nothing's ever one and done.
Mm.
You're always nurturing, you're always getting in new leads. It's a big ecosystem. So I think in the past, I have sort of focused on one thing and then something else has dropped by the wayside.
Mm.
And that then impacts you, say, 2 months down the track where you're like, where are my new leads? And it's like, oh, wait, 2 months ago, I stopped doing lead gen. So I
Yeah.
can't really do that. Yeah.
Marketing is a lagging indicator. Like it's
Yeah.
always when we just drop off the face of the earth and then don't pick up, we have to understand, and that's going to happen to some of us. Like sometimes we are going to, as mums who are running businesses in part-time hours, we're potentially going to have moments where we drop off the face of the earth, but you've got to understand that, or expect that there is an impact to that. It's not an instant impact, but it does absolutely happen. So when we started working together, you had a couple of different programs and products, and you were in, I feel like, a season of really looking at the product suite. I think you had just closed down the membership, or
Yeah. Yeah.
moved the membership to a different type of model.
Yeah.
And we sort of looked at what you had, and we said, well, we're going to focus at the front end on this hero offer that is called the Emotionally Intelligent Educator, and then create what I call a premium profit driver sort of on the back end. And one of the things I think people not misunderstand, but people think that, when I say create a hero signature offer, there's a couple of things that people think. They think that offer needs to be it and you need to stick with that forever and ever and a day. Sometimes people think that needs to be the only offer. It should have the ability to be the only offer, but sometimes, and a lot of the clients that I work with, we're like, okay, we're going to use this as the front end offer. People want to know about it. It's going to work really well from a front end marketing perspective, but knowing that sometimes the real profit potential is on those back end type products. And so one of the things that we strategized, and whenever someone joins the mastermind, we have almost like a kickoff, and we give people a blueprint. Everybody gets clear on how do we feel about this as the plan. And in that plan, we sort of strategize an offer called Lead with EQ. How do you feel, or how did you feel when we put together the blueprint and we sort of said, let's have this offer at the front end and then we'll have this profit driver at the back end?
Yeah, amazing. I think too, like I've spoken about, I had quite a lot of offers in my business. Like I have a course for teachers' aides. I started with a beginning teacher course, and that was that was my membership, which then I turned into a self-paced course. And I had run a container for leaders. So I'd sort of dabbled in all the things. And I loved that when we put the blueprint together and I was looking at it thinking, how am I going to focus on one area, but still have all these other feeder courses and things that I can offer because they are all valuable. But, you get in your head sometimes you think, well, I need to market all of these, or I need to talk about all of these. But once we had the plan, I could see how having the hero offer of the emotionally intelligent educator, I could see how that sort of fed into everything else. Lead with EQ was amazing because I'd wanted to work with leaders and I just didn't know how that was going to look. So I loved that, I'm running it at the moment.
Yes.
And I'm loving it. I'm doing all the work that I love to do with women in leadership at the moment in schools. And so, yeah, I just love how the emotionally intelligent educator, leaders can do that and so can educators, but it just depends on the type of transformation that they want. So if, a leader isn't interested in group coaching or they don't want it to be too intense, then the emotionally intelligent educator is there. The other thing I do is run 90-minute workshops for schools, whether they're in person or online. And so I love how with the blueprint, it's all connected because it sort of all already flows. Sometimes principals reach out to me and they're not really sure what support they want. So we often start with a workshop for everyone. And then the benefit of the office that I have now in the ecosystem is that they can sort of tell me what they want for their staff. And then I can say, well, the emotionally intelligent educator is here if your staff want to do something self-paced, but Lead with EQ is here too if you've got leaders who are ready to do the work on themselves and then facilitate that in their school so that everyone's on the same page. So I love how it's so clearly mapped out in how the offers relate to one another and how I can serve everyone that works in a school.
And Lead with EQ, we just knew it was going to be a banger because it's the way that it's messaged really hits on, exactly what people want. People want to be able to facilitate a different culture at a school, to be able to put that on their resume as something that can help them step into leadership positions. And you put the call out very casually. I would call this an ascertain launch on social media, like a few posts on social media. There were a few emails.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep. And what was the response to that program like?
Yeah, I couldn't believe the response. It was overwhelming, actually. I think I sent over 80 of the
Oh, wow.
expressions of interest flyers to people. And so I just put up a few Instagram stories. They weren't even posts. And if, people DM'd me or hit the icon, then I would send them the expressions of interest. I put a couple of posts on LinkedIn. Like it was very easy and very organic. And I think because I have been nurturing my audience for quite a long time and they already know what I teach. And, because I had the offer there ready to roll, then yeah, lots of people reached out and it was amazing.
Love it. And you just came off the back of a launch for the emotionally intelligent educator with something like 700,
There was like 750.
750 people in your challenge. And I love that. What would you say are, if someone here has a business, they're established and they want to have clearer launches, they want to be able to enroll people in signature offers more easily and more reliably, what are some of the tips that you would have, in terms of, you've just come off a challenge and then run a small live launch? What are some
Mhm.
tips that you have for anyone who's like, that's what I want to do?
Mm. I think these days it's a no-brainer to invest in Facebook ads because organic social media content is absolutely tanking at times. I think because there's just a huge pool of people now and you have to be able to get attention. But it also, so that helps you obviously build your audience between launches, which is really important so that you do have fresh eyeballs when you do go to launch. That and consistently nurturing your current audience so that you are warming them up so that when you do have an offer that's going to help them, they're like, oh, sweet, I've been learning all about this, over the last 2 months through social media posts or emails or podcasts. And, I'm ready now to take the next step. And for the work that I do, building your emotional intelligence and learning how to regulate your nervous system, you have to be ready to do that because it does require work. It's not like you can just download something and then plug and play it and that's going to
Mm,
help you. It requires, personal work every single day. So my audience do take lots of nurturing and education and so that they're ready to buy. So doing that definitely helps you when you do launch. And I think too in your head, it gives you a really clear plan of like, okay, over the quarters of the year, these are
mm,
when my launches are,
yeah.
and this is what I'm doing in between. So getting really clear on what your year looks like when you are launching and
Mm,
what tasks need to be done. The other thing is having the funnel. So when I started working with you as well, I didn't have the emotionally intelligent educator on a funnel. It was something that I had only live launched once. And so it was awesome to be able to set up a funnel to really see how a customer goes through everything and
mm.
the iterations that you have to continue to make. Like it's really sold online too. The evergreen is so sexy. You just pop it on a funnel and you're going to be making, tens of thousands every month. And it's like,
Yeah,
no, that doesn't happen when you first set it
yeah.
up. Like it takes so many iterations. So I love that you can, put a product or an offer on a funnel and then live launch it as well.
Mm,
And my personality is really great for live launches because I
yeah.
love the energy and I love teaching and talking to people. And so I love that it's not this or that. And I
Mm,
love how you operate like that. It's like, what are your needs? Where are you at? You take into consideration your life, your lifestyle, what you like to do, your strengths. And that's why the blueprint really comes in handy because you can really tailor something towards
mm.
you. Because you can waste so much time trying things when really someone might
Yeah,
say, this might suit you better for where you're at.
yeah. So, in terms of your offers, in terms of your launches and things like that, so the emotionally intelligent educator, what is the price point that you sell that for?
497.
And lead with EQ, what is the price point for that one?
So that's 2,997, and we had an early bird for 1,997.
Love it.
Yeah,
And so, some of the other things that I thought was super interesting from your launch, if you're happy to share.
go
One
for
of
it.
them, so when we were in the middle of a launch, and one of the things that happens in the Peace and Profit Mastermind is when we're in the midst of launching, I love to see people's launch updates of how they're going, how they're going, how they're going. And, we made a few mid launch tweaks, but one of the things we sort of said was, let's just stay the course of this launch and see how it all pans out. And certainly the vast majority of the sales, like there were two statistics in your launch that I thought was super interesting, that I thought anyone here who is live launching would hopefully feel comforted to know. And one of those was that the vast majority of people who just purchased during your launch purchased in the last like couple of days of the
Yeah.
launch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hence why nervous system work is probably very important.
Definitely.
But the other thing that was interesting, and I want some part of me wonders also, like, I'm sure there's multiple factors at play, but for anyone here who's like, I want to have that, I want to have big launches, the other interesting statistic that I thought came out was that the vast majority of people who purchased had only really joined your email list in the last like 30 to 60 days.
Yeah, really interesting. I think that with the line of work that I do too, that you really need to be ready. Like you need to be
Yeah.
ready to say yes. And so
Yeah.
I think the new people that join my ecosystem, I have people that come into my world and like, oh my God, I've just found you. This is amazing. I need to purchase straight away. And it's like, okay, sweet. You are like really ready for this work. And so bringing in 750 people, into the challenge, obviously there was a big handful of them that were ready to say
Mm-hmm.
yes to do the work now. There had been, I know some people who had purchased had already been in my ecosystem for a little bit. And so I think they were just ready to say yes. But it does all just come down, I think, to your messaging and
Mm.
really pinpointing where people are at, like really getting clear on who are the people that you want to help and transform at the moment and what are they going through. So, how can you communicate to them that this is the thing that's going to help them? And I love now, like, because we've gone over it, I was disappointed, but that's just me because I have really high expectations. And I know I remember freaking out too, being like, only a couple of people have purchased straight away. And I'm like, I was shooting bricks a little bit because every other experience I'd had
Yeah.
with live launching and doing a workshop. Also, this was my first challenge. I usually only run a workshop. So I was like, how come I haven't had like 5 to 10 purchases yet? Because
Mm.
that's what I was used to. And you were like, just stay the course, like it'll be fine. And we made some tweaks. And I think too, because I was so used to running a workshop and then the cart closed quite quickly
Yeah.
after, we had a much longer cart open period. And it makes sense for teachers because a lot of them to go and ask for approval from school for their teams to purchase. So yeah, all of those factors come into it. So it was nice to be able to go back and forth with you to sort of brainstorm what might be happening. But yeah, in the end, we did have quite a few enroll, and I wasn't taking into account either the enrollments into Lead with EQ, which sort of boosted everything and balanced everything out as well. So, and I also received emails for 90-minute workshops from the challenge as well. So it was a really great launch in terms of revenue, but also just finding new leads and finding ways to work with people.
Yeah, for sure. I think we landed, excluding a number of sales, at a minimum of 6.3 return on ad spend. So by and large, for what we put in, definitely had a great result
Yeah.
from that. So, and I feel like this is something not many people talk about, but is super, super common. And I spoke about this on a hot seat call just the other day, that a lot of the time when we come into business, especially for those who take action, who get traction, who put offers out there, there's this point where we stop in our tracks and we're like, hang on, okay, now that I've put things out there, now that I've tested the market, you know, I have this rite of passage of almost like questioning, who is it that I want to speak to, or what do I really, really want to speak to? And so I think for you, the next chapter looks like not throwing out any of the offers that you have and maybe reserving them, for periodic launches, but really you're, in terms of, I guess, maybe that ikigai concept as well, you're looking at actually who can I really support, which is a little bit broader into women and mothers who are ambitious and running businesses and doing all of those things. So expanding that niche a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, the further you get into business, the harder it gets because you realize that you can actually serve anyone and
Mm,
everyone and
yeah.
do so many different things. And that makes the choice makes it harder, I think. Because I am a mum now and I'm super passionate about mothering and I guess all of my teaching background in regards to attachment and child development and so much of what I've learnt around emotional intelligence and conscious parenting. And that is the same as really how we teach in the classroom. It's just a different lens around motherhood. And I know that so many of the wonderful, passionate teachers and leaders in our schools are mums,
Yeah.
and to have someone supporting them who understands that they're going to work every day to hold space for little humans and then coming home to parent, or in a business you are holding space for so many people and then you still have to go to your own family and do the exact same thing. Like, mothers are just fucking incredible. And
Yeah.
so I'm just so ready to, I think I told myself a story too when I had my daughter, that I wasn't experienced enough as a mother to help other mothers. And so that's something that I've worked through and now I know is absolutely just a story I was telling myself. But yeah, I'm really ready to sort of not pivot, but just expand my audience and see how I can and help, yeah, mothers in the business space and the leadership space with EQ and nervous system work.
Do you find having two children in business different to having one child in business?
Definitely. You don't get a break at all. When I had my daughter, like, I really built my business in nap times and,
Yeah,
getting up
same.
early and working at night, which I loved. Like, that's not
Mm.
a bad thing. I love doing that. And the balance was a little bit different. So, my son's only 6 months old, so we're still in the really early days. And my parenting has certainly changed. So I have wanted to be more hands-on in that, like, I have a nanny that helps 1 day a week, but I still do all the things with my baby. She pretty much just watches him in wake windows and
Yeah.
entertains him and does some cleaning. And so, yeah, even if I, have a work day that's from 9 to 5, I might only really get 3 or 4 hours
Mm.
of work in that day. But I'm really happy with where I am. And I just know that that's a season. And that's something I've learned through business is we just keep going through different seasons. And I know that one day I'll be able to work as many hours as I want. And,
Mm.
I'm even considering homeschooling my kids now. So I love the idea of being able to work. And obviously, we're launching an app. So I'm going to be in the company full time. And so being able to do those things and homeschool and really live a life that's in alignment with our values, that's what I absolutely love about doing all of this work, and why naturally my business is evolving from education to, yeah, more
Mm.
mothers in business and mothers who want to live outside the box.
Yeah. And do big, bold, brave things.
Yeah.
So, what do you mind sharing with us what support you have in life and business that enables you to run two companies, be a really involved parent of two children? Like, what support do you have that allows you to do that?
So, when the reason things have changed a bit too is pre my son, when I just had my daughter, I had my mum like living pretty much next door. So that was amazing in that my daughter went to her 1 day a week, to my mother-in-law 1 day a week, and then to a family daycare 1 day a week. So it was a really nice spread of
Yeah.
care. And that's when things were much easier in terms of I could consult, I could go and do
Mm.
a day work. Whereas now that I've got the two and where I am currently, my mum left right before I had my son. So I was really dirty with her about
Yeah.
that. But my mother-in-law, she has, in our family, she's always had Fridays off to look
Yeah.
after grandchildren, and it's been so special. So both my children go there on a Friday. So that's sort of a day that I do my group coaching containers because I know I have her
Mm.
there and my one-on-ones and things like that. And then, yeah, only literally in the last month have I started having some help from a nanny, it's so funny how all these stories come up when you decide to make new decisions for your family.
Yeah.
And so many did. So I had to sort of go through that. And yeah, I'm so glad because I literally only had one inquiry because we live so rural.
Okay.
And Nanny Jules was it, and she's here, and she's an absolute legend. So I'm
Fab.
so glad that worked out. But it was my friend's mum, so we also
Okay.
knew her. So she's like another grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 1 day a week nanny and 1 day a week with mother-in-law. But I don't have any days where I'm just on my own. So I'm literally just working when I get time. And like I said, I could spend every day going, oh, I just wish that I could have this and this and this, but I'm really content with where I am in life. And I know that it is just a season and time will free up again. And my kids certainly, like, I know I'm not having any more children. So I'm sort of soaking up the time that I have with them. And just that's why I have an OBM and I have a VA. And so outsourcing a lot of my tasks that I don't have to do is fabulous. It just frees me up to do the actual coaching and running of the containers, which I love. So, yeah.
And in this season, less, I guess, less coaching and things like that, and probably leaning more into group offers and one-to-many offers, would you say? Or
Yes and no. Because I did my coaching certification, when did I think that was last year. Mid last year I finished, and then I was able to coach for a fair bit. And then because I was prepping for maternity leave and sort of changing my business around, I really want to, like, I coach lots of teachers and things like that, but I want to get my coaching hours up. So I'm actually focusing on one-on-one at the moment, and that's from just a skill lens. Like, I'm happy to forego some revenue, because we don't, in our family, I'm really lucky. I'm not, scraping at the bottom of the barrel. So I'm able to do that and to spend my time that I do have on coaching and group containers and things like that. I think it is a mindset level up, to be honest. Like, when I've done a lot of memberships and programs that are sort of lower ticket, I have done the higher ticket stuff with consulting, but now that I have less time, a lot of my stuff has to be high ticket. And that has been also another thing to work through, like, tying your worth to the dollar sign and all of those things. So, but that's what I am learning. I love to work closely with people, and that requires more of you as a person. And so it does require a higher price tag than just, whipping online to do a self-paced course or something like that. So, yeah, all of that I'm working through at the moment, but I'm really keen to see where that takes me.
I love it. And do you have any other words of wisdom as we wrap up today? I could just sit all day long and learn about how people run their businesses, what support they have, what their offers are, all day long. As we wrap up today, knowing that this has been so incredibly helpful for so many people, do you have any tips, any words of wisdom, or anything that you want to shout from the rooftops for women who might be in a similar season of life, raising really young children, still feeling ambitious and wanting to run businesses, but knowing that it has to be on their terms? Do you have anything else that you might want to share with them?
Of course. Well, you need high emotional intelligence for one. Like, that is the secret. That is the special sauce. Otherwise you burn out or you lose your mind, and you can't juggle all the things if you don't know how to regulate your nervous system and you don't know how to pour into your own cup, because you are giving to everyone else. And if you're not giving to yourself, then you can't give to anyone else. Like, it's absolutely impossible. So that's why I love doing so much of the coaching around the inner work that we have to do to be able to take up space and ask for our needs to be met and to set boundaries and to live life outside of the box and do things differently. We need to have that high level of EQ. So that is something you will never regret investing in. But overall, I just think that there's no such thing as a waste. Like, you might do things in your business where you think, oh, I've just spent 6 months doing that and I've not made any money, or I haven't got, the leads that I want to get in or whatever. But it's all just data and it's all just your story. And to just keep going if you're passionate about it, and you will get there.
Love it. Emma, for anyone who wants to follow you, find out more about your business, where can they come and find you?
Yep. Over on Instagram is probably the best place, which is just m_gentle. And if you are in the education space or you'd like support for leaders, then LinkedIn is probably the best space, and that's just mgentle as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure. Another episode on the books. If you'd like to continue the conversation and get more super savable tips, come and find me on Instagram @RobinBirkin. Otherwise, make sure you're subscribed, and I can't wait to see you next week.